Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be telling you the 5 worst books that I had the misfortune of reading in 2025. I will be starting at number 5 and working my way up to the worst one. Starting off strong at number 5, I have Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Now, hear me out. I really loved book 1. I really hated book 2. I also hated this one, but less than book 2. I think this one was a little bit better pacing wise, but like that's it. I feel like the plot is still all over the place. The characters just feel different, but like not in a they've grown way, or like we've seen their growth and now they're maturing. They feel like not like themselves. It went from like 0 to 100 in certain aspects, and like it's just I don't know. And honestly, I feel like I'm riding the high of book 1. Book 1 was so fun. I know a lot of people hate it, and like that's fine, but it was just fun. Okay, it wasn't perfect, no, but I had a good time reading it. It was fast paced. It kept me on my toes. It was entertaining, and that's what I want. When I'm reading a book, I want to be fucking entertained. This was not entertaining. It was kind of a slog. Like, it just sucks because like the books are honestly so beautiful, and I just wish the insides were better. Book 2 was worse than this one, like I said, but I'm so close to just giving up on the series. If the next book in the series isn't better than this one, I'm just gonna call it quits. So I feel like 3 strikes, you're out. So book 2 was the first strike. This is the second strike. So the next book being bad will be like 3 strikes, you're out. You know, I'm giving up, and then I'll move on and not think about it anymore. But that sucks because book 1 was really good. Unfortunately, we're not continuing that trend in the series. At number 4, I have This Will Be Fun by E.B. Asher. E.B. Asher is a writing trio, I believe. I don't know each individual author's full name, so sorry about that. But I read this for a Coven buddy read, and I hated it. It was so boring. I feel like the first chapter was like a little bit promising, where I was like, oh, okay, like I see the concept. I like understand where like the tone we're setting, and I had hope that I would at least enjoy it a little bit. It was supposed to be fun, silly, romantic, and it just turned out to be boring. It was just so lackluster. The main love interest that we're supposed to be like rooting for is like the most boring white man to ever exist. Like he was so boring. So the trope is supposed to be like lovers to enemies to lovers again, and like I just didn't believe any of the chemistry. It was so bad. It was so cringe. It's basically like these adventurers were famous like back in the day, and it was like a couple years later or like a decade later, and the adventuring group kind of like broke up because one of their friends died when they like saved the world. One of them died, and I feel like that concept was cool. And then I thought it was going to be this story of like friendship, of them like coming back together as friends. And it was like, it kind of was supposed to be that, but it didn't actually do it well. They're supposed to like come back together for another quest. And I was really hoping it would lean into like the friendship and that aspect, but instead it was kind of just like this weird amalgamation of like slapstick humor, like celebrity, like medieval celebrity gossip gossip magazines, and like just weird. It was weird and boring, and there were 2 sex scenes between 2 different couples. One of them was Fade to Black, and it was a lesbian one. Fade to Black, right? Tell me, why did we get full details about the straight couple? I don't know, but I'm assuming that like the publisher was like, hey, we can't have a lesbian sex scene and a straight sex scene in the same book. Because I know that one of the authors at least is queer. So like, I feel like it was just very much like, it was very much like, oh, we prefer the straight couple. You're not getting much out of the lesbian couple. And I was like, yeah, well, that's boring. I don't really even remember specifics about what I hated. Other than that, it was boring. There was like 2 jokes that were like punny that made me laugh, but I was laughing because they were awful. Like I was laughing. I was like, oh my God, like, like when your friend tells you a really bad joke and you guys laugh about it because it's so bad that it's funny. It was like that, where it was like so bad that it was funny because of how bad it was. But that was it. That was the only redeeming quality, were 2 bad jokes that were so bad they were funny. It was very boring. I'm glad it's over, and I will never read it again. And from this moment on, I will not think about it anymore. In my number 3 slot, I have I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. I've talked about this a lot recently, so I won't say too much about it, but this is the author of The Last Unicorn, I think it's called, which is like such a beloved classic fantasy that I haven't read. And now I'm scared to read it because I was expecting a lot from this little novella, and unfortunately I did not get it. This book is about a young boy whose father has passed away, and he's kind of inherited this family business of like being a dragon exterminator, like going to houses and castles and villages and whatever, and like ridding them of dragon infestations. And that sounds so fucking cool, right? Unfortunately, it's not. I thought this was going to be like a cozy fantasy. I thought that we were going to get to see him like find a new appreciation for dragons instead of like exterminating them, like kind of befriending them is like what I had in mind, because it says, I'm afraid you've got dragons. Like, I don't know, the tone of this title and the premise don't match what happened in here at all. It actually ended up being like really dark. People get burned alive, like on page. It was really weird. Also, the writing style was just so long-winded for such a short book. I felt like each sentence was like 3 pages long, and I was like, can you shut the fuck up now? Like, it was bad. It was really bad. I wanted to read The Last Unicorn, and now I'm not so sure. I might try it just to see, because like obviously he's like super popular for that one, and maybe he just lost his touch. We don't know, but I don't recommend it. It's not a book that like I'm like, oh, I didn't give it a 1 star. I think I gave it like a 2 star just because it was boring, right? It was boring and the tone didn't make any sense, I guess, is my main complaints. It was also a little bit all over the place, pacing wise. I mean, it is short, but like, I feel like we had a lot of action, nothing. A lot of action, nothing. A lot of action, nothing. And then like stuff that was happening, but had no purpose whatsoever. So that's that. Can't wait to leave that behind in 2025. In my number 2 slot is a self-published short story. Like, what's it called when there's a lot of stories in one book? They're short, they're not connected. Analogy? That's not right. Anthology. There we go. Good job, brain. A short story anthology of like horror tales. And a couple of them were like interesting. I would say 2. 2 of them I like remember off the top of my head that I actually thought the story was good, right? The rest of them were just either boring or boring. The theme of the worst books I read last year was boring, apparently. I really just needed fun entertainment in the year of 2025, and I was not given it. I did actually end up DNFing this book at like 97% of the way through because I just could not slog through it any longer. Yeah, there was one story in here that said something along the lines of like pestilent puckered lips, and they were not talking about lips on your face. And from the moment that I read those words, I knew Paula D. Ashe, the author, I was like, you are not for me. I'm so sorry. Your brand of like weird horror is not the brand of weird horror that I enjoy. Your brand of weird horror makes me wonder if perhaps you maybe need to go to therapy. There were some other stories in there that were questionable, and it didn't read like horror. It read like someone writing a diary entry and turning their real life into horror. It felt really weirdly specific, and I feel violated for having read it. Moving on. If you have been on my channel literally at all in the last couple of months, you know what book is about to pop up. The number 1 most awful book I read last year was Aragon by Christopher Paolini. Is anyone shocked? I have talked about how much I hated this book until I was blue in the face, so I'm going to try to keep it succinct. This is a very beloved classic 90s. Is it 90s? Early 2000s. Early 2000s beloved fantasy book, fantasy series. Everyone was like, oh my God, a teenager wrote this. That's so impressive. And I'm just like, I thought this was written in the 90s. I am genuinely shocked that it was written in 2002. I feel like in the year of 2002, there were enough online resources that this child did not need to write a book this badly. He could have easily have looked up writing videos, editing videos, how to like character develop, how to not steal themes from other works of media. I buddy read this with my friend Jade, and Jade, I'm so sorry that I put you through this. It was my idea. I do think that you already wanted to read it, but it was my idea to read this for Draconathon in August. And I'm so sorry. We hated it. I think that the prose was awful. The pacing was bad. Aragon himself is such a fucking annoying little twat. This dragon, Saphira, not the kind of dragon I like. She is stupid. She will literally make fun of him in 1 second, and then in the next paragraph, she's like, "Oh, we're best friends. Like, he's my favorite person in the whole world. Our bond knows no bounds." And then 2 seconds ago, you were like, "You can't even climb the tree, you skinny twerp." Like, you're mean to him, and you're flaky. You say one thing and you don't mean it, and then you like trying to allude to other things. And then same with Aragon. Like, dude just has no personality. He's very much like a self-insert, like a blank slate. Like anyone could read this and pretend they were Aragon, which isn't always a bad thing, but like he was just so bland. And there were also parts of this story at the beginning that I feel like had a little bit of promise. Like, don't get me wrong. The idea like could have been great. He just needed to, he needed more time. This story needed to be better refined. It could have honestly even have been split into 2. And then like each part made like longer and had time to develop things, because there is literally a paragraph at the beginning of one of the like first chapters. I want to say like chapter 5 or 6 maybe, or yeah, chapter 5 or 6, where, you know, he finds the dragon egg, she hatches, and he's like talking about the dragon. She's like a little tiny hatchling, right? And then he's like, "Oh, wow, guess I have a dragon now." And then the next paragraph, the first sentence is, "8 weeks later, they had bonded for so long and their bond was impenetrable." Moving on, and it changed the subject, and I'm like, I would have loved to fucking see any of that. How am I supposed to believe that you guys are bonded if I can't see it? And that's like just one example, and stuff like that happened quite frequently. It just like, and everyone, I know, everyone's like argument is like, "Oh my god, but he was a kid when he wrote it. Isn't it so good?" And I'm like, the idea is good. I acknowledge that the idea is good, and like, good on him. He wrote a book that became a real thing. Like, people can hold it and people can talk about it and people can hate it. But I think that he was very much coddled by his parents. They told him it was they probably told him it was so perfect. You did such a good job, honey. And they didn't, I'm assuming they didn't expect it to like become as big as it is. But it's just not good. It's just not good. I think that if he had better critics in his life, he could have really dug deep and honed his craft. Like, for you to have this much motivation as a 16-year-old is impressive. The motivation is impressive because 16-year-olds don't stick to things this long. I feel like their interests are ever changing, ever growing. They're bouncing from interest to interest, trying to find what they enjoy. Like, the motivation was there. The skill was not. Okay? I hated it. 1 star. I think it's bad. I think that this is a bad book. There's literally a part in this book where he and another side character, both boys, rescue a young elven woman. She's young, but she's like 200, which is young for the elves, I guess. And they rescue her, and she is literally bloody, unconscious, nearly starved, bruised. Did I mention mostly unconscious? And they walk into her cell, and they're like, "Oh my God, she's so beautiful. Wow. Wow, she's so hot. Oh my God, she's injured. We should maybe help her." And then they help her and continue to ogle her. And it's like, why? Why was that a choice that you made, huh? Christopher Paolini, I know that you were a teenager, but like, nobody in your life was like, "Hey, son, we shouldn't really ogle literally almost dead women. That's kind of gross. Kind of gross, son." Like, it just baffles me. It baffles me. I also read one other book by him this year that I DNF'd. I read his other series, To Sleep and See the Stars. I read the first book a little bit. I DNF'd it. I think it's safe to say Christopher Paolini is not for me. I just think his writing lacks that like je ne sais quoi. You know what I mean? I don't know what to call that. Like, it just lacks something. It just feels ingenuine, I guess. I don't know. It's almost like there's an emotional block between him and the paper. Like, I felt nothing other than disdain, disgust, annoyance, and misery. There you have it, folks. Those are the 5 worst books that I read in 2025. If you made it this far in the video, I would love to know what your worst book is of last year down in the comments so I can avoid it. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!